Hello everyone, welcome to this little community survey video that I'm going to do. I'm going to talk about this community survey for Past Tech's Ravenswatch. Yeah, I don't normally do stuff like this, so sorry if it's awkward and I am weird or whatever. Alright, so player persona, how did you discover Ravenswatch? I little bit of a history lesson. I got it recommended to me through a friend by my friend Fitzy, who you have seen if you've watched my Games with the Boys videos. How long have you been playing Ravenswatch? It was like September, October of 2023. I think it was late September or early October, one or the other. What platform do you play Ravenswatch on? PC only. And then how many hours have you played Ravenswatch? It's almost 1,000 at this point. Definitely both solo and co-op, but probably I've definitely played more hours in solo. I'm fairly certain about that. Keep up with Ravenswatch news, Steam updates. Where are they? Steam Community Hub. There we go. All right, Romeo and Juliet. How do you play Romeo and Juliet? I prefer them in solo, more solo than in co-op. What do you think of multiplayer experience playing with Romeo and Juliet? I'm going to type these out and then I'm going to talk about it. So I've mentioned this as my thoughts on the Romeo and Juliet multiplayer experience. Oh, I have a little typo here. But basically, it just feels kind of clunky going into multiplayer with Romeo and Juliet without full comms. Because, like, if you're not able to call out, hey, I'm going to special here, sometimes people don't notice that you're trying to special. Sometimes they're doing their own thing. Maybe they could say, like, hey, wait, please don't special yet. I need to do this or this, because it's just so easy to cancel. And if they don't trigger it at the right time, aka immediately, then it can kind of suck. You're just like standing around like an idiot. On 1 to 5, how do you enjoy Romeo as a playable hero? Let's just go with I think 4. I think all Ravenswatch characters are either 4 or 5 for me. I don't think there's no one that I'm neutral on. They're all like either fun or amazing to play. So, how'd you rate Romeo's base kits? I like it. I think it's a 4. What do you enjoy most about Romeo? Probably his defense. What do you dislike the most about Romeo? His power feels really weak. What else do I not enjoy about Romeo? I think that's really it. I guess kind of going off what I was talking about here with the multiplayer stuff, this right here. It's just really like the fact that the special is so easily cancelable to me. That's about it. Let's go from 1 to 5. How do you enjoy playing Juliet? I really like Juliet. I love her. 5 for the base kit. What do you enjoy most about Juliet? Her power build. Let's just say, and her overall strength of all builds. None feel bad. Dislike the most about Juliet? Same with Romeo in regards to the special. Okay, that's what I'm going to say for that. Which of the 2 heroes do you prefer playing? I'd say 4 towards the Juliet. Well, maybe 5. Do you think Romeo and Juliet were a good addition to the cast? Of course. If the Romeo and Juliet was not free, how much would you have been willing to pay for it? $5, really, because, I don't know. 2 characters, and they added some more stuff, but it was probably just the characters that were going to be paid for, so I wouldn't mind if they eventually did, like, character packs where they add, like, 4 characters for $5 to $7. You know, if it's 4 characters, I could see, like, 7 or 8, but, yeah, $5 to $8 for 2 to 4 characters, I wouldn't mind. Now, in your opinion, which of Scarlett's talents deserve our attention most? I'm trying to remember what I answered for this, because I was doing this on my phone a little bit, and I realized that this is a long survey, and I was just like, why not make a video out of it? I think evisceration, yep. Not adrenaline, but savagery, absolutely. Those 2, for sure. I think everything else is, like, decent in an isolated context. True Instincts maybe kind of feels useless with the just having movement speed in human form, I believe. Well, maybe Devourer too. Let's click that one. Alright, I'm going to answer this and then I'll be back. Alright, so my answers for these. Devourer feels clunky to use unless you have it at legendary rank. In high octane moments, not getting a reset due to it being based on odds. Oh, let me scroll down here. Sorry, can feel really bad. So like when you're trying to get a reset and you just don't, it feels bad. I think maybe it should be guaranteed on kill like at all ranks, and then the effect for like it going up for you upgrading it in the ranks should be like it does more damage. Like I don't know. 10% more damage. Your next power does 10% more damage, and that stacks 2, 3, 4, 5 times, depending on the rank of the ability. Eviscerations just seems weak overall, in my opinion. The way to make it stronger in run is to make your power stronger. I have a typo here. Oops. Which in turn just makes evisceration more useless, because if you're killing an enemy, like if your power is not killing an enemy and evisceration finishes it off, that's cool, but if your power gets stronger, evisceration isn't going to be useful because the power will just kill the enemy, So it doesn't feel all that useful, especially like against a lot of the smaller enemies. Against bosses, it's good, I guess, but aside from that, it feels like it becomes very useless. True Instincts, I just don't ever feel like taking it. I pass up on it probably more than any other Scarlet ability. I feel like all these other ones, I see myself taking more, except maybe Savagery. But that, like, the 30 damage that you get out of it is just not great. I would really appreciate it if it was, like, kind of like one of the starting talents where you have to, like, accomplish a task. In this one, it's spending combo points, I believe, and it goes up to 20, I think, if I remember correctly, something like that, or maybe 30. But once you get to the full stack, it doesn't do anything, and I wish it did. I wish it like either gave you like at full stacks plus 50 damage for 60 seconds, or strength for 30 seconds, or crit damage or something like that, just so it wouldn't, feel so bad. New Scarlet talents, just one, a power ability that draws in enemies. League of Legends ults. There we go. Anything to add on Scarlet? Nah. Alright, next. So, Pied Piper here. For Pied Piper, what do I want to talk about? Probably Ghost Notes, Chorus, and Music of Spheres. Because I'm pretty sure, in regards to Ghost Notes, neither of these two are synergistic with it. And I was thinking about it recently, because Ghost Notes says for every note played, for every so many notes played, you get a Ghost Note to come out. Technically, Music of Spheres and Chorus aren't being played from your character. They're being played from other sources, which I think is why it doesn't work together. But I still think that's dumb. Forgive me. Why do you think these talents deserve our attention? I think they should synergize with with Ghost Notes. I think that's good. It'd be cool. Any ideas for Pied Piper talents? I was thinking about this during my Pied Piper run today. If you haven't watched it already, maybe I'll put up an iCard or something. By Spyro. Hey Spyro, hold on to this. Any ideas? Yeah, I was thinking about it. Something that reduces the spread of daytime power notes. Maybe some other effect for nighttime. What could you do if it reduces the spread for daytime? Maybe it just increases the power of nighttime notes. Anything to add on Pied Piper? Nah, he's cool. Sweet. Next. Beowulf, my boy. Shield Charge and Sparkling Shield, I think were the only ones that I really cared about. There's also, is it Secondary Tremor? I think it's Secondary Tremor that shoots out after your special. I don't like the way it works personally. Why do you think these talents deserve our attention? So Shield Charge, I realize, and maybe it was play tested and feels bad in practice, but just wanted to throw it out there. Secondary Tremor, I think that could be a lot more satisfying to use. It's like spinning around, it goes shooting out powers. Maybe not, I don't know. Idea box, do you have any ideas for new talents? Not really. None that I can think of. No, I think they cover a lot of... Oh, wait, actually, no, I lied. Let's talk about something to make his fire deal more damage. Oh, I also think maybe explosive fire. I had ideas about like napalm or something like that, or like being able to stack it somehow. Like for example, you can get fiery wings and then maybe like fiery seismo. You could apply a fire attack and fiery slash. You'd apply 5 fiery attacks in the span of 3 seconds there. Maybe if you had more stacks of fire on an enemy, it would like multiply how much damage it does or something like that. I don't know though. Anything to add on Beowulf? That covers everything. All right, moving on to Snow Queen. Honestly, no notes for Snow Queen. I think she is probably, in my mind, maybe the most well-designed character. I think Ice Beam is the only really bad thing with Snow Queen. I think it's the only ulti upgrade that feels worse than the base. Not particularly think she's the best designed character. And that's a fact. Aladdin. Oh, my op. Let's see here. Your opinion, which of talents deserve our attention the most? So I was thinking aerial catch. Maybe well, I'll click it. There's also dancing blades. I believe that's the one. When you catch your special, you do a little spin attack. No, is that spinning strikes? Actually, that's spinning strikes. I don't. What the hell is dancing blades? Is that just it makes your special last longer? I think it is. Sand Vortex is the sucky ability on his special. And I think that's everything that I really care about. Alright, so my idea, I think Aladdin's special build could be so much cooler. Alright, so for Aladdin's special build, I think it has some missed opportunities. For example, having spinning strikes apply all special effects, such as Sand Vortex and Healing Blades. This means that when you catch your special and you do that little spinning attack, it reapplies Sand Vortex, pulling enemies in, and Healing Blades, so any enemy that you hit during spinning strikes heals you. And not having it consume enchant points, I think that could be pretty cool. So, like, not only your special comes out, or your special goes out, hits enemies, comes back, and you do the spinning attack. Doing the spinning attack should not consume enchant points, in my opinion, in this scenario. I think right now, as it is, it's whatever, because that's how it works, but if it were to work like this, where it essentially becomes your special, but on your person, I would rather it not consume enchant points, personally. I also think earning enchant points should be easier in a way, like still situational, but like you can get more of them if you play it properly. So, for example, having something whether it's aerial catch or a different starting talent, making it so that your special gives you +2 enchant points when you kill an enemy with your special, I think that would be really nice. Granted, I do think that might fall off later. This would just be, for me, like an early game thing. I find that there's a lot of moments, for example, in Chapter 1 by the Ghoul mini-boss, some of the geometry in those types of areas where there's lots of little rocks around and stuff like that, it can get stuck on the geometry of the area, and you just waste your special. And then you're like, oh, great, now I can't really do anything for the next, like, 10 seconds. Or I guess it's, like, 8 seconds now, because they nerfed, or they buffed up the cooldown time. So, yeah, that's really my biggest issue with Aladdin is his special, and in a way, the enchant points. Or maybe more so the enchant points in a way, his special. Yeah. But kind of branches out to Enchanted Djinn, which I also ended up selecting here. In power builds, I tend not to take Enchanted Djinn unless I have Acrobatics or the one that accrues them over time. What's it called? Major Enchantment? I think so. Cyclonic Appearance, I forgot about you. You also suck. Oh, I can only pick 5? Well, Aladdin sucks, so maybe you'll just take away Healing Blades and Sand Vortex. They don't really need to be in there. But yeah, Cyclonic Appearance should also be in there because I think it's counterintuitive to his power in general. But yeah, I think when you're using your power in a build where you don't have Acrobatics or Major Enchantment, and you're not able to get those enchant points easily because you throw out your special, if it hits 2 enemies and comes back to you, it will probably all get consumed, like all but like 1 or 2 will get consumed by your power if you have Enchanted Djinn. And then attacking without enchant points just feels absolutely awful to me. I don't care if you could still like output some damage. When I attack without my enchant points as Aladdin, I am like physically and mentally hurt by it in real life. This might sound a little dramatic, but I like actually want to die when I'm attacking without enchant points. It's so, to me, just annoying, honestly. I'm gonna type out my thing for cyclonic appearance real quick, and then we'll move on. All right, for cyclonic appearance, I think it's another ability that's kind of counterintuitive. So generally, you want to be using your power at full charge so you can do the most damage with it. But cyclonic appearance, unless you're using it to like let's say a bunch of baby spiders are rushing you, and there's a bunch of bigger enemies that you actually want to hit with your power further away. If you use the power with cyclonic appearance, the AoE that at the start can kill them and then go hit the enemy that's further away, letting you get your like have your cake and eat it too with this ability. But it really doesn't happen that often. It really doesn't. The scenario doesn't show up that often where the smaller enemies are the ones that are all around you, and there's only big enemies or only enemies that you want to hit further away. Sometimes it's just that all the small enemies are actually all around the big enemy, and it can be decent to use it at close range if you just want to get a big AoE off on a lot of enemies, but it still just feels bad in my opinion. Maybe if it had an effect where your power has full charge damage at all points, so like even if you just hit an enemy at melee range, it's going to have a full charge level of power for your power. Yeah, I said that. But yeah, idea box, do you have any ideas for new Aladdin talents? Not really, just something for his special, please. Anything to add on Aladdin? Nothing else. All right, moving on. Mellow Scene. We're gonna talk about Sea Dance. Probably the only one I really want to talk about. So I'm gonna type this out and then I'll be back. All right, so my proposal for Mellow Scene is to make Sea Dance just a part of her base kit altogether, or at least the teleport. So she should be able to teleport no matter what starting talent she takes. Deep Beat, Bewitching Song, Spring Water. Didn't they change this to be Underwater Predation or whatever? Underwater Predation is now a starting talent, so they have that mixed up still, or like not updated, I guess. But yeah, regardless, yes. Whether you take any of those or Sea Dance, you should be able to teleport. And then Sea Dance specifically should give you the heal on teleport, and I think it should reduce the cooldown of the teleport. So I know I'm pretty sure when you take Sea Dance, the teleport is either like a 5 or 6 second cooldown. I think without Sea Dance, with Deep Beat, Underwater Predation, or the other one, what is it? Spring Water, yes. I think with all of those, it should be a 10-second cooldown, and then with Sea Dance, it should reduce it to that 5-6 second that we normally know it as. Overall, the reason why I think it should be like this is because abilities like Deep Beat, Submerging Attack, and Shimmering Scales feel kind of useless without the teleport, and obviously you can't have Deep Beat and Sea Dance at the same time. So I think having it work like this would make these feel a lot better, so that you can reposition without having to exit your attack stance. Maybe you would have to nerf some of these so that they're a little weaker, but I think it would just feel better to have them like so you can like keep your stacking or whatever you have going on, Any new ideas for Mellow Scene talents? Not really. Nothing else. All right. Now we have Geppetto. Oh, I don't really know. Geppetto, I kind of just turn my brain off and go, so I don't think I have much to add about him, honestly. I have no qualms. To me, it just kind of is what it is with this character. Even if I don't really like Vacuum Capsule, but I don't have any ideas for how to change Vacuum Capsule. I don't like Unstable Cores, but I don't have any ideas for how to change Unstable Cores. I think it's just like not for me, It's not where it's like, this could be for me. I could definitely see how this could be for me, but it's just not there right now. I don't know. I mean, the only thing I can think of is explosive builds, make it work with Dummy Ball. Maybe. Otherwise, not sure. None. Nah. Moving on. Sun Wukong. Again, I think Sun Wukong is arguably the most powerful character in the game. And obviously that's balanced out by his extreme volatility. There's really nothing that I would add to Sun Wukong at all. I think everything here is pretty well designed. I think if you don't say Snow Queen is their best designed character, I think it's Sun Wukong. Even if he is frustrating at times because he is so volatile, especially in his Yin mode. I believe that's the damage dealing one. Even if he is volatile, I think it's, it's the risk reward. That's just the character that he is. And I think they nailed the design philosophy with that. So, nothing. Another peak character. Do you have any ideas for Sun Wukong talents? Nope. Nothing. Alright, moving on. So, Carmilla. Which Carmilla talents deserve our attention the most? Boiling Blood and, Seductive Provocation. Okay, so I'm going to type these out. Alright, so here's my answer. Boiling Blood just never seems worth it to me. I think it really just needs a buff. It should probably just heal you a little more or have an additional effect here. In healing, or provide an additional effect. Seductive Provocation, to me, I think is just the flat out worst ability in the entire game. I think making it work with your power, like while you're casting your power, would fix it though. I think it would be a nice addition to the power build overall, and it would still be useful, or like moderately useful in other builds because you still use your power. I do understand that like maybe if you're standing still, like you exit your special, you stand still for half a second, and then you go to cast your power. Maybe having that first half a second not count would be fine. Like casting the power resets that timer. So 2 seconds into your power, that's when the Seductive Provocation goes off. You get the vulnerability, you get the weakness. I think that would be actually really cool. I think it should. I just don't understand why it doesn't work that way, because while you're casting your power is when you want enemies to be vulnerable and for them to have weakness, so you could just stand there and maybe not worry so much about incoming damage. Granted, this might actually make it too powerful, I think, but you could tweak it from there. I'm not actually sure how it works. Like, if you do Seductive Provocation, do you get 3 seconds of vulnerability / weakness on the enemies, or is it 6 seconds? I don't know how long it is because I never take it, because every single time I just brain off, ignore that, it's garbage, So I don't even know how it works, really. But maybe making the vulnerability not last as long, maybe that would be a nice way to, like, balance the scales a little bit in that scenario, but overall, I also think it should work on bosses even if it has reduced effectiveness. So for example, if it's like 4 seconds of vulnerability on regular enemies, make it 2 seconds on bosses, for example. I'll have the text reflect that. Alright, there we go. Any ideas for new Carmilla talents? No. No. Nothing. Is that it? Oh, brother, I don't know. Nothing concerning the specific abilities, I think. I'm not going to really comment on these. I have no thoughts. I think everything except for his power feels pretty good, but I don't think that it needs to be changed at all. I think it's just kind of like less good, and that's fine. Next. Double tap. Alright. I think double tap should improve overall cast speed because it rarely feels worth it to sit there and cast it versus most enemies. I'm not just saying this because on the 4 negative modifier run, I had that one healer hit me with the attack as I was casting double tap, but that is like one in many examples where it just feels not worth it to use double tap against like knights in the 3rd chapter, for example. It's great when you have the enemy knocked down and you can just sit there and cast it, but I don't know, it kind of feels like, why would I take this when I just have to ignore it some of the time, or most of the time even? No new suggestions. Nah. Alright, cool. Is that it? Ooh, items. Okay, jeez. I think Goldilocks Porridge, Voodoo Doll. I think those are the worst ones. And then I think I'm going to throw Dreamcatcher in there as well. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Alright, Dreamcatcher. I've said this for a while, but I think it should work on Wells and the Altar of Heroes. Just makes sense to me personally, and I think that would actually just make it, instead of a mid item, like an item that you're like, all right, I guess I'll take it. Like if I had Dreamcatcher, Goldilocks Porridge, and Voodoo Doll in a chest with no rerolls, I would take Dreamcatcher because at least it's not the other two. But yeah, Goldilocks Porridge. The recent nerfs seemed really weird when it was already one of, if not the worst common item, maybe even the worst item in the entire game. And then Voodoo Doll, I think it just needs to make you deal more damage to elites, like 10 damage to elites, 10% more damage to elites with 15% to bosses, or 15% flat, to elites and bosses. Like Pukers, or the Mother Ghoul, whatever. Banshees, Big Pigs, Big Spiders. The corrupted, the nightmare enemies, the little tentacle enemy and the worm, the phoenix, etc., etc. You get the point. If it did it made you deal more damage to those enemies, I think it would be a lot better. Suggestions for new common items. That's a good question. I don't think so. No, I mean maybe an attack speed. Maybe an attack speed item. Because the only other way you can get attack speed is with the full stack of Ace of Spades. Queen of Hearts, obviously. Fairy Dust and Unicorn Horn. Sure. Alright, so this is not controversial at all, but Queen of Hearts, worst item in the game. It gives Goldilocks Porridge a run for its money. I should do a run where I just take the worst items in the game, by the way. That'd probably be funny. But yeah. I think the idea of the effect is not bad, but it shouldn't just be an out of combat thing. It should be if you haven't been hit type of thing. So, like for example, you get hit. If you don't get hit for the next 5 seconds, then you start healing, and then up until the next time you get hit. I think that would actually be pretty decent. You'd probably have to nerf the amount of HP that it heals. Instead of 2% per 2 seconds or whatever it is, make it 1% per 2 seconds or something like that, or 2% per 5 seconds, something along those lines. But yeah, I think that would probably fix it, honestly. Make it like a decent item. Fairy Dust, I think it just needs a buff. It feels alright. It's like pivotal to the Geppetto power build, where you just you need the magnetic hammer and the flux capacitor, and you just send a frick ton of dummies out there. With the permanent shield that this gives you, it's absolutely necessary for that build, and it's all right in some other scenarios, like when you're playing a squishy character like Pied Piper or Snow Queen, who can't heal with her kit. Unicorn Horn also might just need a buff. Not really sure how, but it feels weak overall. Ideas for other rare magical objects. Something to buff passive damage. Passive and or defense damage. Also, maybe I'll save this for legendary, actually. Yeah. So something to buff passive and or defense damage. Alright, so which epic objects do you think? I think these are all really good. The worst one is Raven's Eye, in my opinion. But it's not bad, it's just that these are all... and the other ones are all too good, I think, to usually pass up on. There's very few builds where Raven Eye is the more useful option. Like, for example, when you're playing Pied Piper and you ulti either of his ultis, the Raven Eye full stack effect doesn't really do anything for you. Plus, his ulti is his weakest ability in general, usually. Maybe, here, let's say this. Just not as good as the others. Maybe if it's also increased ulti damage would be useful. for Pied Piper, who feels like his ulties are his worst abilities and are DPS downgrades. I think. Let's put that in there just to give me some safety net. New epic objects. Not particular. Jesus. Not particularly. Alright, in your opinion, which legendary magical objects do you think deserve our attention? None. I'm pretty happy with most of them. I think they are weaker than cursed objects overall, but I think they're all fine in their own situations. Golden Coat of Chainmail could have its nerf reverted. Something like that. A few. Shoot, I'll have to think about this for a second. Alright, so here's my ideas for some legendary objects. Jack of all trades, a percentage buff to attack, power, special defense, and trait damage. Wait, that's everything. Wait, hold on. I just literally... It'd be like, do it plus 20% damage. Let's just say, like, not defense and trait. That was kind of short-sighted, I suppose. Yeah, percentage buff to attack, power, and special. 15%. So it's not, like, quite as good as a single Ace of Spades, King of Clubs, and Jack of Diamonds. There we go. Armor legendary, effect when picking up health orbs, maybe. I had an idea in an episode a little bit ago. It was something like when you pick up health orbs, I don't think it was exactly like Philosopher's Stone. There was something where it was like, it emits a, maybe it just gives you a flat 30 armor, and then when you pick up a health orb, it emits a little shockwave, several shockwaves over the next couple seconds that deal damage based on your armor. Could be cool. Maybe a Thorns effect. Yep. Say flat armor, effect when picking up health orbs, maybe. And maybe a Thorns effect. Healing legendary, heals for 1% of your max HP when killing enemies, 2% for elites, question mark. Could be cool. Luck legendary, makes rares and epics more likely in chests, and makes health orbs more likely to drop overall. In your opinion, which cursed magical object do you think deserves our attention? Again, maybe Mad Hat, maybe. I think all of them are in a pretty good spot. Like, I think they're all fine. They're all situational. Some of them are more situational than others. Some of them are kind of go-to. You just take every single run, like Balor's Eye, or Baba Yaga's Mortar, or Hope Diamond, or Hungry Grass, you know? Maybe you could make Hungry Grass more punishing. Maybe make it have that effect that one negative modifier has where you take damage outside of combat. Hence the Hungry Grass, you know? So, yeah. Play on the name, make it deal 1% max HP damage to the character every 5 seconds when outside of combat. Any cursed magical objects? Monkey's Paw? Not sure on the effect. Oh, also, I had a Midas item, question mark. Alright. Yeah. Is that everything? Thank you. That's everything. Sweet. Only took me an hour and 5 minutes for the survey. Jesus Christ. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any suggestions yourself, you can fill out the survey, or if you just want to leave it in the comments, hopefully Past Tech will look at this video in general to see your guys' comments. But, you know, they also have their Discord. There's also my Discord. So there's lots of places to leave your feedback and whatnot. But this is a good generalized survey for, like, more concise questions and whatnot. So if you are interested in this, go fill it out yourself. Maybe echo some of my points if you agree. I don't know. Maybe you don't agree at all and you say, don't listen to that Cypher J guy, he's an idiot. I don't care. These are just what I think I'd like to see, you know? But anyways, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Bye.